It's Sunday, so you know what that means? Single Sunday. Yes, we're diving into Single Sundays. These are books that we ended up picking up from New Comic Book Day on Wednesday. Ended up reading them, and now ranking them, breaking them down. I don't know what we're all going to end up doing. But let's dive in, and let's get to the sauce. So we have 8 books altogether today. 8 books. And then we also end up having one that was carried over. So one of the 8 is a book that was carried over from last week because unfortunately my LCS didn't end up getting their diamond order on time. So that ended up pushing one of the books over into, well, today. So we have a mixture of 1 independent, 3 DC, and 4 Marvel. So with that said, let's dive in and rank these bad boys and give a quick synopsis of the books. Alright, coming at number 8 is going to be Batman Hush number 2. This is the first issue of that. This is by Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb. I have to find that so far I love the art, which is what Jim Lee's ended up doing. But so far the story's coming off a little bit lack of fluster. But obviously we'll end up giving it a shot. Coming in at number 7 is another DC book with Absolute Wonder Woman. So it looks like the regular artist is taking a break for a couple issues. And honestly, it's okay that it comes over with it. I do like the Sherman a lot better than I do like the other artist that comes over with it, but I also understand the change. We have some character development that's going on with it. We got some explanations that is also in the book as well. We end up finding out about different lassos and one specifically and how it gets formed. And there's a certain companion that we end up finding out how she ends up getting them. That's something you can find in Absolute Wonder Woman, issue number 6. Which is also our issue number 7. Coming in at number 6, I mainly picked it up for the cover, but obviously you can't just end up reading it. Or not collecting it and all that. This is Godzilla vs. Fantastic Four. I love the cover. That's going to be something that's going to be taking place of the Godzilla book that I have, since it has a bunch of Marvel action with it. And I like the looks of Godzilla so much. I have to say, is Godzilla doing Godzilla things? However, the art that came over and the inside is kind of very unique, especially with Godzilla. Godzilla kind of looks a little bit distorted, a little bit weird that's inside the book. But it was alright because it had the classic things. And, spoiler alert, it's not just Godzilla that you see that's in the Monsterverse in the book. To find out who the other one is, you have to read the book. Alright, so we're coming over to the top 5. Starting off with our top 5 is going to be another DC product. Well, it's Absolute Martian Manhunter. I like the story that's developing. I like the character that's going over with it. For me, a big deterrent is going to be the art, which a bunch of people says the art is the big thing about it. But it's just a different style, and maybe it's a little bit jarring for me. So maybe I might take a few issues for it to get a little bit better. But right off the cuff, I have to say that it's too psychedelic for my likings right now. We do have this on the poll, so we did add this to the poll instantly. And we're going to end up seeing and going through it because I love the idea of Martian Manhunter getting more development that's coming out of it. Number 4, we're cracking into Marvel with Ultimate Spider-Man. So we end up having a special suit that's going over with a certain family member. I'm not going to be saying who, that ends up working together. And Peter ends up having a time talking over to the suit. And then we have some events that ends up popping over to make it a nice, well, developing story. I have to say the action's pretty decent, and I enjoyed, well, the interaction that they ended up having. That was issue number 15, by the way. Coming in at number 3 is Ultimate Wolverine, issue number 3. more character development. However, there is some good action that's in this book. A situation when you end up seeing a former X-Men that ends up identifying with our Wolverine character. And that was nice and neat to be able to see that's inside this book. Coming in at number 2 is, for me, it has to be the blood version. Must be the blood version. But it is Wolverine's Revenge. Issue number 5? Yep, 5. Has the action, has the development, and we ended up seeing some offspring from one of the heroes that we had ended up seeing that ended up having a nice fall. And we ended up hearing how he didn't really care for being a hero. And then we also see Sabretooth finally get what was given, and some craziness that happens with Wolverine. And like I said, this has to be the red band version, so you gotta end up being able to have all that blood and everything that goes on with it. And as you can see by the picture, he's a wee older guy. So coming in at number 1, this is the book that ended up carrying over that was ended up being missed from last week. And honestly, last week it would have been number 1 as well. And it's not going to come to a surprise to you, and I'll explain why that it's going to be the number 1 book of this week. First off, we have a possible character death right in the first issue. And yes, this is the first issue of that. We end up getting some development that comes over with it, and we get to establish some characters and a background over to the story. Enough saying what it is, or leaning towards what it is. It is going to be number 1 of Thundercats Lost. So like I said, I gave you the reasons for it, and there's something that's exciting that goes over with it. If you don't know and you didn't see the Geeking Out version, this is going to set up an entire new mythos for these newer characters. We got 2 new characters going to be over with it, and at the end of this, you end up having a new villain that's going to be coming out as well. You have someone that's from the Thundercats past that's also going to be inside this story. So you have a nice way that wraps it all up. And as you guys know, I'm a big Thundercats fan. Well, that's part of the really reason why you have the color red as the second color that we end up having. And I think it's going to end up being something that's going to be nice and fun that's going to go over with it. We are planning on breaking it down once we get a few issues in to get that story development. And then we'll end up having a lot of spoilers that's going to be going on with it. If that's something you're interested into, let us know down in the comments down below. And we'll make sure we end up breaking that out. And if there's something that you've read that you think that we should be end up liking, put it down in the comments down below as well. So let's talk about the poll, because this is the last week that we have before the entire new month that comes around. We don't have anything that we're dropping, and we have already added Absolute Martian Manhunter. That's something that was added to the poll. And we're enjoying that. And then we're going to end up having all these Absolute lines. If you haven't noticed, they got extended past the 5-issue mark that they were ended up going with. I think I saw somewhere where Martian Manhunter is already okayed for 9 issues or something like that, which is going to be nice and neat. We got Absolute Flash, which is still ends up what we got to pick up a few issues of that. That's something that's on the radar to possibly add to it. And like I said, there's nothing to be dropping. So I guess we cover that pretty quick and simple. So with that, thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.